Welcome back to Bayona's RC World, and today we're going to get right back on the horizontal stabilizer of the Plains Revive Giant Scale P47 Razorback. Alright guys, don't forget to click that like, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. Alright guys, so we're going to go ahead and now we're going to start on sanding the leading edge to the actual taper of the front of each rib. So the center line that I had drawn straight down the middle of the front leading edge, that's going to be my gauge, my marker, so that when we're utilizing the sanding bar, we're making sure that we're making this thing straight. That what I like to do in the beginning is utilize my rasp. I use my rasp to get down as much, and then I use my sanding block, T-bar sander, and I fine tune everything. So when you're looking down the length of this horizontal stabilizer and you see, where's my pen at? You see the top portion of the ribs, you just want to continue that line all the way down to the center of that line that we had drawn. Same thing with the bottom. So if you go like that, it's all you're doing. It's from here to the trailing edge. We're not trying to get this lower. We're leaving the same airfoil. It's just main concentration is cutting this leading edge down. So we could get that back portion of the leading edge to line up with the front of the rib on the top and the bottom, and then maybe about 1/16 or 1/8 thick up front. This is what we're going to use the rasp for, and we're going to cut down all this top piece right here. We're not going to cut it down to the line. We're just going to get rid of this high peak up front, and then the sanding T-bar will get the rest down. Right here is your trailing edge, so all we need to do is just ensure that these two basically flush. So if you have a rib that's just a tad bit higher, that rib, you sand it down flush with the trailing edge. So we're not trying to alter this airfoil here, but if we do need a little bit of sanding just to get the rib to match up flush with the trailing edge, then that's what we're gonna do. And so you just got to be mindful as well. So when you put your sanding T-bar down, keep it nice and flat. Keep it flat, even pressure, and do the full length, just like that. And so if you notice on this side, this leading edge, I already had trimmed that off. So I'm going to make sure that I do the same thing on this side here, and we're just going to trim it off. We're not going to trim it completely flush with S6 rib. We're going to just give a little bit more meat on the outside, and then we can sand everything flush once everything is sheeted. But right now we're just going to go ahead and just cut this excess off. Just like that. And when we start doing the rasp, we're probably going to have to hold something down here. So I'm going to use my T-bar sander just to hold majority of the aft portion of this horizontal stabilizer down. So I don't want to use my hand because I might end up breaking something here. So you've got most of the weight distribution pretty much on a bigger area, so I can move around like this and I know I'm not going to break anything. So the main thing is just trying to get this down. I'm not working this hard. I'm just taking my time. Very little pressure. Okay. So we're looking good so far. And I'm gonna bring you guys in so you can see. Okay, because you can see how my line, right? Little by little we're getting there. But you notice that you don't see any wavy line pattern going around, because I'm just rasping away, keeping it nice and straight on all the way through, not concentrating on one side. So let me take you in. Once again, I'm gonna cut in camera footage. Just gonna take you straight in. You see my center line mark. I'm just right above that center line all the way through. You can still see that center line. I didn't really sand into that line. Now if you look at straight down, you see how it's all nice and even straight down the whole leading edge. And then the same thing with the contour of the ribs, right? We didn't reshape ribs and stuff. We did sand a little bit on top of the ribs, and so as you can see, all the ribs, it meets up right in front of the leading edge right there, all the way through. So now when we put the sheeting from the trailing edge forward, everything is going to be nice and even. You're not going to have any high spots or anything. And then when we put the sheeting down, we're going to use our T-bar sander to press the sheeting down instead of using your hands. And if you've been watching my videos, you know the reason why I do that is to keep even pressure all the way through, to keep sheeting looking really straight, really nice, and you're not going to have all these divots and waves and stuff like that. All right, so that's pretty much this side. So we got left and right. The whole top side has been completely sanded, leading edge. So we got, this is the extra piece, or the used sheeting that we used to cut the center sheeting here. So we're going to use this plus 3 additional 3/32 by 4 inch by 30 inch sheets, and we're going to go ahead and make 4 sheets to cover your left and right stab, top and bottom. With the excess one, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put that there, and so we're going to find one. We're going to basically place it here, give a little bit of overhang up front, just like that. And then of course we will cut the center line here, and then we'll trim this off right about here, and of course there. And we're going to make 4 of these, and if you do it right, you should be able to utilize this excess for the opposite side over here. So what I did was I just went ahead and I made a center line mark right smack in the middle, and on this one here I went ahead and just what I did was I followed my center line mark, and I went ahead and I trimmed it off right here. I'm going to give a little bit of an overhang, maybe about less than 1/8 of an inch up front, all the way around. And then from there, on the rear side here, I went ahead and I also gave it about 1/8 of an inch over, marking it based off of the trailing edge and the edge of rib. And then I'm going to utilize this leftover section to make the bottom piece right here. So just cut this right here. And the sheetings is 3/32, so I'm just gonna score it down until we get cut through. I'm not trying to cut this all at one shot. There you go. And then from there, we'll cut this free right here. So this basically will make my left top sheet. This right here now will become the bottom. So let's go take it over to the horizontal stabilizer. So we're gonna go right here. We're gonna go ahead and just line this up like the same way we measured it out. And I'm just gonna give it about, like I said, it's less than 1/8 of an inch up front. Overhang. And about less than 1/8 of an inch to the rear. Overhang. That way we have some room to mess with this. Okay, so that's that. So we'll take that leftover sheet that we just cut off from the other end, and we can utilize this to make this sheeting. Okay, so from here, what we can do is we can make our mark here, and we're going to utilize this edge, and we're going to utilize this mark right over here, right about here. And we'll go ahead and cut that. All right. Just like that, we made our sheeting. So this one right here, just take your time, you guys. There's no rush in doing it. Rushing is where you make mistakes. And so just take your time. Take your time and do it right the first time. I am going to trim this utilizing my straight edge ruler. And I'm going to just put this from one end to the other, just making sure it's all nice and straight. For the most part, this one is actually pretty straight. So I'm just gonna maybe just really just do a little real thin, making your blade straight up and down. Just run your blade the full length, up and down. Just run your blade the full length. That should get rid of any high spots and everything, and it also keep your sheeting nice and flat and straight. That way, when you edge glue these two sheets together, they're gonna go together like it was meant to be. Keep your blade straight up and down. Now we take our sheet, put it together. Now you're gonna see the edge gluing part. It's gonna be flawless. And you gotta make sure when you do cut, your sheeting, that you keep your blade straight. If you kind of candid your blade in or out, you're going to end up putting a taper on your edge here, and then when you try to glue it together, you're going to be making a groove, and so it's going to be able to, you're only going to get marginal adhesion because you got that gap, and so it's going to end up being something like this. You're going to be able to move it because the full sheet is not adhered to each other. It's just the edge if you were to make your cut crooked. So keep your cut straight as you can. Now to glue this together, you can utilize Titebond, right? So Titebond glue, if you use Titebond, you're gonna have a nice glue joint, and it's going to be very easy to sand, and you're not going to see a lot of any of that ridges and stuff. The problem about that is if you're expecting to continue to move on in the build process, that glue is not going to dry fully in the amount of time you need. So this is Titebond that I normally would use, and your sheeting, they're both really touching the table. That's the reason why I got glass. So when you do glue this, you want to make sure it's all nice and straight. You don't want it candid or cocksided off each other like that. You want to make sure that they're both in line so that it's less sanding to really blend the two together. Because if you got one side higher than the other, and then when you sand it, what's going to happen is that high spot is going to now become thin. And so if you ever try to completely final sand your model, and then when you go and grab it, your finger goes right through the sheeting because you sanded the sheeting just way too thin. And that normally happens when you have a lot of CA glue on the seams and you're trying to sand that off. It's up to you what adhesive you want to use. I'll use thin CA, or if I'm not in a rush, I'd use Titebond. And with Titebond, you never go wrong. The other way to do this is you just get some tape. You put your sheeting together, make it really nice and tight. Pull your sheeting together and then really get that together really well. Pull your sheeting together. Okay. Now, I'm going to utilize this as my top sheeting. So I put the tape on the top like that. When I turn it around, you can open it up. Put your adhesive, your Titebond in between there, close it down, wipe all that excess off, and you can either put some more tape on top of this side or put something to weigh it down until it completely cures. Okay. Now you can also utilize this tape method with CA. The downfall of that is once you get this thing glued, sometimes that CA, especially if you're using thin, will penetrate all the way through to the tape, and when you peel this off, it's gonna end up leaving some tape on the sheeting, and then you're gonna try to sand that off, and you just got a big glob of tape and CA all built and stuck into that seam, and you end up, of course, over sanding. This portion will be thin, this portion will be thin, or wherever you put the tape. So to prevent all that, if you're going to use CA, I advise don't use the tape method. Just put it together and hold it tight and put your CA in between the two sheeting and wipe it off. And once all this is done and it's all dry, then we'll come back and then we'll sand all this nice and smooth
both sides to get it nice and smooth, and then we can glue it on top of the horizontal stabilizer. And I also got a little bit of water and alcohol in this. Okay, and so open it up just like such. Go ahead and take our type on and get all that glue in there. Make sure you get it all the way through. Don't worry about the mess at the moment. That's the reason why you got a rag. Okay, and then from here you just close it down like that. Now you can utilize scrap and wipe off your excess. You don't have to worry about Tide Bond because Tide Bond is very easy to what you call this, sand. Okay, and also when you're gonna put some water to clean this up, don't oversaturate your cloth because you don't want to mix the water or alcohol and oversaturate it and weaken the glue. So just remember that this is the inside, so I'm not too worried about that. Now we can go ahead and come back, get some tape, make sure that everything is all nice and tight. Sheeting, just tape it down. You can flip it over and check if you need to clean the opposite side. More than likely you don't have to. You can pick it up and look at it. And you see, if you look straight down, they're really in line of each other. They're not like one over the other type deal. So from this, you can set this down. You can get your something flat like that. Hold everything down and just let that dry. So about 30 minutes to an hour, we'll come back. It should be dry enough to move it around and everything. Alright, so while we're waiting for that to dry, we can go ahead and take care of the other side. I'll go ahead and take the new sheeting here. Get this thing all the way. Find my mark here. Just go even as this. And we'll go like this. Make this right. Okay. From here, right there. These two. Okay, just like the last time, we're just going to trim off. We'll put one from one end and to the other end, just like so. We'll
we're trying to get as little as we can. Keep your blade straight up and down. Now we put this together. I feel that is way better. It's going to be the bottom. This will be on top. So we just get a straight edge here. Put these two together like that. Make sure everything is all pushed down. Get our type on. Push it down, just like that. Where's my rag? Oh, he's all the way over here. Oh yeah. So we got 4 skins to cover top and bottom of the horizontal stabilizer. I did the other 2 off camera. The same procedure I did for the top that I just finished showing. And so we got 4 pieces of the 3/32 by 4 inch by 30 inch sheeting that was utilized to make these 4 skins. So we're just gonna go ahead and wait for this thing to completely cure, because we're using Titebond for the sheeting edge gluing. We're not using CA this time around. And yeah, I just wanted to go ahead and use Titebond this round. So this structure is completely sanded smooth. Everything here, the leading edge towards the ribs to the trailing edge, all this is all even based on utilizing the sanding T-bar all the way through. Okay, now once the sheeting dries, then we'll come back and we'll use roughly about, we can use 220, but what I'm going to use first is 120 grit sandpaper, and I'm just going to rough sand the whole sheeting and get everything nice and smooth, and then we'll come back with 220 and sand it nice and smooth. This is basically how I do it, and it's nothing different than what the manual also shows you. And if you go to the tips on the manual, it'll also kind of explain that as well. But it's just the stuff that I've been doing for years, and it never failed me. So to me, it's tried and true, and I continue to do it today. What I'm going to do now is just pretty much sand it all nice and smooth on both sides. Like I said, you do this now. If you edge glued it properly, everything will be smooth all the way around, that you're not going to have to do a lot of hard sanding to this. So I'm just going to sand it smooth to a certain degree. Trying to keep it nice and even all the way. Just like that. As you can see, this side is already smooth. Okay. This side here.
As far as I'm concerned, this is smooth. This side is smooth. There's no ridges. There's no hard edge or anything. And so from here, we'll just, this is 120 grit sandpaper. Now we can go ahead and go to 220 and just kind of smooth it out a little bit more, and then we're done. All right, guys. So what we're gonna go ahead and start doing now is we're gonna position our top sheeting. Everything here, like I said in the previous portion of the video, that everything was already sanded, the ribs, all that. And so what I'm going to do now is just position one of my sheeting to the center line that I had drawn earlier, making sure that the trailing edge isn't lining up here, that I have a little bit of excess around, just in case a little deviation and movement when we're placing this down, we will still be fully covered. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and place my other sheeting, make sure the same thing, everything is being covered. And as you can see, the center seam looks really nice. The surrounding sheeting really looks clean. Okay, so then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move one, holding the sheeting that I just positioned. I'm going to add tape, maybe this section, because it starts to curve down that way. And if you know that it's things that are curved don't like to hinge like that. So from here, I'm just going to go ahead and push my tape down, and I'm going to hinge it just right there at the tape. So I'm going to pick it up just like that. Now I have full access to add my glue all around the structure of the horizontal stabilizer. I'm gonna refrain from adding glue to my leading edge at this point. I'm just gonna wait until later. And then once the glue is all down, all I have to do is just lay my sheeting right back down, right where it hinged at. And then we're gonna go ahead and grab our T-bar sanders, and we're just going to apply pressure around all the glue joint areas, just like this. We're gonna prevent from using your hands and pushing down, locking in a dip or whatnot from overpressure. So by doing it this way, utilizing your T-bar sander, your sheeting will be majority all straight. And so before I do add glue, I always tend to do a few practice runs, you know, add my glue, and then come down, drop it down, and then start singeing everything nice and secure. You do your practice runs, your dry runs, and then once you are feeling comfortable with it and you know that everything is still lining up properly, then it's time to go right at it with the glue and all. So just by me explaining that, that was my dry run. Now we're going to go ahead and start. And because I'm right-handed, I'm going to use my right side. I'm not going to be doing the leading edge at this point, not just yet. drop it down, come back with our T-bar sander like we practiced. Now I'm going to put pressure. I'm going to apply pressure, keeping everything nice and straight. I'm going to come down to the ribs on the front of the leading edge. Constantly add pressure here, just like that. And also, another note is before you do add your sheeting, double check that your whole entire stab is still in line with the plans. Because the last thing you need to do is to glue this thing on when you're, for example, like this right here, like your training edge and all that stuff is not on the plans itself, and it's kind of cock-sided slightly, and then you put that sheeting on, you're done. Okay, so I made sure that everything was all straight prior to doing this, so we're good to go. Okay, and then from here, I can go ahead and remove this tape. We don't need this tape anymore. Now this is how fast it is when you're utilizing CA. If this was Titebond, we would do the same thing. It's just as now that if it was Titebond, we would actually have to have something of like weight to hold this down while that Titebond cures. And so in this case, I didn't have any weights on me right now. I didn't make any weights because I really was just going to use CA for this. The only time I'm going to use Titebond on this build is mainly going to be when I edge glue the sheetings together. Now that's what I'm saying now. Who knows, I might do it for when I actually sheet the whole fuselage. We'll see when we get to that point. Okay, but by putting pressure down like this, I'm ensuring that my sheeting is going to stay as straight as it can. There's going to be no chance of droops in between the bays, because we're using, you know, your T-bar sander, which is pretty straight, and we're putting pressure, and what it's doing, it's putting all that pressure on the ribs all the way through, so it's not giving any chance of me putting pressure in the middle of the sheeting. Okay, and so when we get to the actual leading edge part, what we're going to do is we're going to wet this front leading edge with a little bit of water, and then we're going to put some medium CA all up in there, and then from there, once that's all soaked, we will start bending this down and getting it nice and secure to that front leading edge. Alright, so same thing with the second sheet here. Okay, we're going to line them up, make sure it's all lined up, just like such. Make sure on this side we're good here, we're good all the way around, we're still good. And then from there we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to add tape right there, and we're going to hinge it. Let's go grab some tape. Butt this thing up really nice. Make it nice and tight. Tape right there, right where it's going to hinge. And from here, it's going to hinge right at the top edge, just like that. We can actually fold this completely all the way over, just like that. Keep everything nice and straight. And then we're going to do our practice run. Once the glue is on there, we're going to come back down. We're just going to drop everything down. It's still going to be nice and straight all the way through, just like that. All right. Now it's going to be a little bit. I'm going to be a little bit more comfortable with this because now I'm not holding on to that side. Okay. There we go. Okay, just like that. Come back. Make sure our sheeting is touching. Everything is still nice and straight. Drop it down. Come back with our T-bar sanders. Put pressure. And because this thing is only on a jig, you want to keep pressure at your trailing edge when you're putting pressure going to the front. Because if you just let this go and you put pressure in the front, it's going to pop off the jig. Okay, so just like that. Constantly just adding pressure, pushing down on this. Go ahead and remove the tape now. We don't need the tape on there. And just like that, you guys, that's pretty much how we got your horizontal stabilizer sheeted. Now, everybody has their own techniques. This is what I do, what I've been doing for a number of years. I've been doing this for 44 years now. We'll just concentrate on this leading edge. Once everything, we just got my water right here, just the rag. And I'm going to just soak this front portion. Just add some water there. Just get it nice and soaked in there. Just like that. We'll just do both sides. Get this side ready. Alright. I'm just going to come back here I'm gonna hold the back side so it doesn't pop off the jig, and we're just going to slowly just get that sheeting to conform to that slight curve. It's not going to take much. It's not like it's a very hard bend. I could put my, just like that, put the tip just like that, ever so slightly, and we'll get this thing glued down just like that. Alright, so I've come back here and get my CA ready. And it should work just fine, just like this. There you go. That way I ensure that I get that CA all the way up in there. And all the way to the tip. Alright, and from here we're just going to come back with T-bar sander. I'm just going to get this thing secured down. Just like that. I'm going to need a little bit more CA up here in this part. I know this is not. And just like that. Just hold it down slightly. That way it can grab. There we go. Just like that. Not leaving the edges down. Now we just do the other side. Alright. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Worst case scenario is we can come back later when we remove this off of the jig and we can really see everything. We can add thin CA up there and really manipulate this all the way around type deal. But I'm fine with what it is right now. Okay, same thing. Yeah, but on this one I think I'm gonna have to take it off of the jig. I should have not pulled it all the way down just yet, but I think we're good. I think we're still good. Okay, just like that. We'll do the same thing we just did. Okay, what am I doing here? Let me go ahead and look to the side view of that. So what I did was I cut out the template that comes in plans. So I cut this out, I transferred it over to cardstock and traced it onto the cardstock, and now I made a more stiffer template. So now what I'm going to do is make the 4 skins for the elevator just by plopping this on here just like so, and with my pen I'm just going to quickly trace it out. Just like that. So that's 1. That's 2 elevators. And we'll do another 2 here. Double checking, making sure I don't got a knot here or anything like that. And I'll just use this all the way to. Alright. So, what we needed to look for is a bevel gauge. And so I found it right here. This sheet right here, this is P47 GW08, and it's bevel gauge right there. And so looking at this, I found the sheet right here, and this one is exactly the same as the pattern in the manual. So that's awesome stuff. Alright guys, so I went ahead and I popped out the bevel gauge from the laser cut sheet ply, okay, both parts. Now we got to glue this onto this like that, and this is going to go this way onto the elevator. You're going to put your pen right down into that hole, and you're going to run it the length of the trailing edge portion of the elevator, and that's going to make your line for your bevel. Now when you're going to glue this together, you're going to notice that you have the hole right in the center. You can see that, and then you're going to see that they got more material on one side than the other. Okay, so make sure that when you glue this part, you glue it to the wider area. Don't glue it to this side, because then it's not going to give you the proper spacing for the bevel edge that you're trying to use this gauge for. So put it on the area that has more space, glue that piece right there. Okay, just and for this one, we can just freehand this, and we'll just take it slow and just 1/16 before the line, and then we can sand it to the line. Just like that. Let's go do this 3 more times. Okay, so I went ahead and I put the elevator skins. I just propped it on top just to get a good sense of it. And what I did was I lined it up with the plans just by putting my square right at the line, and so now both top and bottom is even with the line, with the actual plans. It's not really going to be a big deal at this point because there is a taper from leading edge to trailing edge, so but to ensure that I have the right amount of material on the actual elevator, I'm using my square to put it right at the line over the plans, and wherever that meets, that is an indication that the sheeting is directly right above and lined up with that line on the plans. Same thing with this side. And so now that I went ahead and I put the elevator sheeting on there, so now this is my top elevator, top sheeting, and these two are my bottom sheeting. So the bevel mark will be in the inside here. So it's going to be in here, and of course inside of this sheeting. With that said, once again, double checking. That rib is straight. This rib is straight. That is straight as it can be. With a minor, that's about that much play. That's fine. No big deal. Yep. That's everything there to include the leading edge. Make sure the leading edge is right on the mark. I mean, at this point, if it's not, then that means you're off somewhere here. So that's the reason why you see that in the beginning of the video series, I'm constantly measuring, making sure, double checking that my horizontal stabilizer, the ribs, the trailing edge, the leading edge, all that was always, I'm always double checking, making sure that it's over the plans, because this is the last thing you need is to glue something down and it's completely crooked. Alright, so with that said, we're going to go ahead and add some glue. Let's go ahead and start adding glue. We're going to start with the right hand side. Alright, we're just going to grab our sheeting, nice and tight, we'll pop it down real quick, just double check everything. Alright, and then from there, I'm going to hold down the main stab, and we're just going to put light pressure. Just like that. Just double check this side over here. Oh yeah, we're good. We're touching. Sheeting is touching every single rib. Alright, so just like that. Double check. I mean, even if I double check and it's crooked, it's too late, right? That's the reason why we double check it prior to adding glue. And we always do our dry run, so we know that it's gonna fall in place where it's supposed to be. Alright, I'm gonna flip this over and do this side. Place this down just to make sure. Bam, bam, we're good. Put this down. I'm just going to apply very light pressure. Let's just double check the ribs. Alright. Completely touching each rib all the way through. Alright. Okay, so we're golden. Golden, golden, golden. And just like that, we got it glued together. Now I can go ahead and come back and we can remove the tape. We no longer need this tape here. The tape served its purpose. Now we're not worried about the gap in between and everything because we did have excess material over the trailing edge of the stab, and we also have excess material on the front portion of the leading edge of the elevator. That way we can eventually sand it and trim it basically flush to the leading edge and trailing edge. Okay, so if you notice, I did not use my hands to push the sheeting down. I use my T-bar sander, nice and flat, even pressure, and so everything here looks straight. Okay, so go ahead and check mark this and call this part done. All right, guys, so we're gonna go ahead and lift off this horizontal stabilizer off of the building board. This is gonna be the first time we did this, so let's go see. Oh yeah. Ooh, nice. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and just put this to the side just for a few moments here while we go ahead and remove all the T-pins here and this jig, because right now we're not gonna need the jig from the next steps here. So we're just gonna put these things away. We're gonna put the jig to the side because this is what we're gonna use this to build the vertical fin and rudder. Now we got our full horizontal stabilizer. So what our next steps is basically to remove all the jig tabs. So all these jig tabs, we're gonna basically just take the X-Acto blade. We're just gonna continue on the cut line, just cut them all off, and then we're gonna take the sanding T-bar sander, and we're gonna sand all the ribs, make it all nice and blend it in with the trailing edge, and then we're also gonna shape the leading edge just like we did with the top. In the meantime, we can also start cutting our hinge blocks out of this 1/4 by 1/2 by, I believe this is a 30-inch stock, and these hinge blocks are 1.5 inch in length. We're going to cut 12 of 1/2 inch blocks out of this. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut one and then use that one as my template, my guide to just start measuring out. So just 1/2 inch pieces. Just like that. And these are going to get glued in just like such. I don't know if you can see that. When you put the hinge blocks in there, I'm going to try to center it as much as you can in there. Don't just put your blocks straight down like that, because your center line is somewhere here, and that's where you're going to end up drilling to put the hinge on. We're using Robart hinge, so. All right. Okay, so we got all 12 hinge blocks pretty much cut. This is roughly about 1.5 inches long each block, and all this is just going to get glued in to the trailing edge of the stab and leading edge of the elevator. What I'm doing right now is the horizontal stab cradle that we punched out and glued together with the base, and they go on their respective area location. Basically, the numbers are there. The only way that I can secure these cradles to the building board is to put T-pins through. It stipulates in the instruction manual that you're going to use repositional spray 3M75 to glue the cradle down to the over the board or your building plans. Well, I'm not doing that, so what I had to do first was pre-drill the 4 corners. So you see there, they got little holes there. So I just pre-drilled them all the way through, kind of in an angle, so that I can put my T-pins through. So we're going to go ahead and we are going to start cutting off all the jig tabs off of the horizontal stabilizer on the bottom. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but you see I extended the laser cut line just by utilizing my pen, just so that I have a visual reference where I should be gliding my razor blade. And so I'm going to be using a single edge razor blade for this, and we're just going to start on one side. So I'll just stick my razor blade right in the laser cut section here, and we will just get the blade nice and straight with that line. and keeping the blade level, and we'll just come back and cut. Keep the blade straight, just cut it off. We're going to shape the front leading edge. Well, in this case right now we're not really shaping, we're just going to be cutting down as much as we can before we get to that center line, and then we're going to use the T-bar sander with 80 grit sandpaper and do the rest. But I use my rasp here just to follow. And holding this down because I do not want to break this hard on the stabilizer. I'm using my center line there as my gauge to ensure that the thickness is very close. We're not having so much waves or, you know, unevenness. The T-bar sander will come back when you put it down nice and straight, and you'll basically get it more straight than that. But yeah, looking at it from this view, you're gonna see that we still got just a little bit more leading edge there. So this right here, we're gonna have to cut down from here to roughly about right here. It's gonna start to taper off, then it's gonna become more shallow down this end. But yeah, now you can do this many ways. I just prefer to use a rasp. I'm really bad with a razor plane. I use a razor plane and I start doing that, and I end up gouging more than I need, you know, or I end up breaking something with just my luck. But my go-to is always my rasp. Alright, so we're gonna go ahead and now utilize the T-bar sander with 80 grit sandpaper. Now, what I'm gonna do is just hold this as good as I can. I don't want to put this on the cradle because I'll be sanding, and I don't want that cradle to start embedding itself, you know, and making dents into my sheeting. So I'm just gonna do it like this. We're just gonna do it very lightly, nothing hard. Once the sandpaper starts doing the work, I'm just gliding the T-bar sander. I'm not pushing down on it. I'm just letting the T-bar sander do the work. For the most part, as you can see, the tabs are getting there. It's looking really smooth. You can see where the laser cut for the burn, so the discoloration of the balsam. So you can tell that's where I didn't touch yet. But I'm not trying to really force this right now. I'm just relaxing. And then when we get to the back side, I'm gonna have to keep this straight like that so I don't break the elevator. getting this to really blend in. Almost there. Almost there. Get in there another point. There you go. Now I'm satisfied with that. Cool. Good stuff. All right. Let's go blend the rest of this in here. Especially this part right here. A lot of groove joints right there. We're getting the bottom sheeting of the horizontal stabilizer already. So we know that the sheeting, the main sheeting, is completed already. So what we're doing now is mainly taking care of the elevator skin. So I gotta put the bevel on this. So I'm just gonna use that bevel tool. This up real quick, just like that. Put this in here. I'm just going to outline. Just like that. So this will be my left side. So I need to do this right side. Just like that. We got left and right. We don't even need that bevel tool until maybe the elevator ailerons, maybe. I don't know yet. We'll see. Okay. And then from there, we just need to bevel this to 1/32 thickness. All right. Also, don't forget the template we used for we made for the center to sheet the center portion of the horizontal stabilizer. This one, I already made one. So this is from the template for the top portion of the horizontal stabilizer. It's good because we used it for the bottom because we also have to sheet the bottom center. Alright, so we're gonna go ahead and take care of that as well. Alright guys, so I went ahead and I glued all the hinge blocks onto the leading edge of the elevator and also the trailing edge of the stab. And of course it's as centered as you can. Place it on there just like such. On the ends there I had to kind of sand it into a bevel. So yep, just like that. And from here we got the bottom of the elevator sheeting all beveled as well, and that's ready to get glued on there just like such. Same thing with this side here, and also we got to do the center sheeting. So top and bottom of the center of the stab has to be sheeted with the sheeting here, and it's gonna go and get edge glued right in the inside of both S1 ribs. So it's gonna fold right. I can't do it with one hand right now, but let me see if I can do it right here. It's gonna get edge glued in there just like that. Okay, in between both ribs. Now it's gonna get, of course, nice and flush to the top of the rib. But yeah, so we gotta glue that. And once we glue the elevators, the sheetings on there, glue that center piece, then we'll take this whole assembly and we'll plop it onto the cradle that I had mounted onto the build table over the plans, and then we'll go ahead and sheet the rest of the stab and enclose everything. Alright, so we're gonna go ahead and glue. I'm going to go ahead and glue this elevator. So I'm just going to go ahead and prop it up. I'm going to add some glue on my beveled area here. Aim this thing in. Alright, and just drop it down. Go ahead and use my T-bar sander. This is not completely sitting. There you go. So for the most part, we're done with that. That is one elevator completely sheeted. So we'll go ahead and take care of the other side. So I glued the front end here first. I'm just trying to get it all nice and even. And that we're done with that. So now we got this bottom side sheeted as well. We got both elevators pretty much sheeted. So both elevators are sheeted, center sheeted, and then of course we'll just come back with the 220 grit sandpaper real quick and just kind of sand this where all the CA just went on and just make that a little smoother. And then from there we'll go ahead and pop this thing on to our saddle here. On the saddle at the moment, and so I'm just gonna double check, make sure that everything is still over the plans. Just double checking everything. Alright, everything looks good. Okay, and so I got my center mark here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my sheeting. I'm going to place this on here. I'm going to line it up as good as I can with that center mark on the center line. Now I'm making sure that I have enough material here at the trailing edge. Make sure I have enough material in the front. A little bit of overhang is great. Making sure that everything is good in this end. Then I'm going to come back here. I'm going to put my other half of the sheeting on here. Make sure it also falls in play, just like that. We have enough space here, everything is good. The center seam is nice and tight. As you can see, we have excess in the front, excess in the trailing edge as well here. So we're good. So we can take that, put that down, and then from here, I'm just gonna hold that there, grab some tape. I'm just gonna push that back down, and I'm gonna hinge it just ever so slightly right in that same area here. That's good. Kind of push this down in there. Alright. So this tape is going to act as my hinge, and it's going to hinge just right here, just like that. I get to put all of the glue, and then we can come back, reposition the sheeting back down, and then lock it down with the glue. Alright. So that's in a perfect world. So we're going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and flip this over, just like that. And we're going to go ahead, same thing we did. We're not going to put glue on the leading edge just yet. We're going to do that later. But for now, we're going to just start putting glue. Now you can use Titebond on this one. Like I said, between the two, CA and Titebond, you're just gonna have to have some weights to put on top so it can hold the sheeting down. And you know, I'm going to use my T-bar sanders to put pressure, so I'm not too worried about any of that. Let me go ahead and grab my other T-bar sander here. Alright. Go ahead and start putting glue. That's the other thing about using CA. You gotta work a little bit fast. Oops. Okay. Now, we're just gonna come back around here. Make sure that we got our sheeting in the proper. Then, I'm just going to use same thing. I'm just using the T-bar sander so that I know my sheeting is being placed on there nice and straight. And from here, we could probably get some thin CA. Maybe we'll just wick it right into here, in this area right here. Because apparently I didn't really grab much here. Come back here, we're gonna come over here and grab another piece of tape, because now we're gonna go ahead and do this side. Alright guys, so we're gonna go ahead and now glue the other side of the sheeting. So same thing, we're gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna hinge it right here. So double check everything, the surrounding area, making sure the horizontal stabilizer has not moved from its position. So everything is still in line with the plans. So I'm just going to go ahead and put the tape right there. So that's pretty much where it's going to hinge. I'm going to hinge it right here, just like so. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and put glue. Let's do this. Alright, I just moved it. I should just put a little bit of pressure somewhere here just to hold everything. Go ahead and pick this up now. Lay it back down. Okay, so just like that. Go ahead and remove the tape. Just double check everything here. Nice. All right. Now we're talking. Okay, so we got that done. Sheeting is pretty much on there. We'll just let this cure a little bit longer, and then from there we will basically just sand this slightly just to kind of blend it all in. We're not doing any final sanding stuff just yet. Other than that, I think this thing went pretty smoothly. So we'll just wait for it to cure, and then slightly, and then we will do the leading edge. Same thing we did with the top portion. We'll wet this a little bit up in here in the front, and then put some medium CA in there, and we'll just start forming the leading edge down. So what we're gonna do now, as you can see, this is the fully sheeted top and bottom of the horizontal stabilizer and elevator assembly. Okay, I went ahead and I made the indentation or a mark on the back here, showing that this is the top of the horizontal stabilizer. Now, I don't think there's gonna really matter, but the way I built this, from the top than the bottom and everything. So I just went ahead and indicate that as being the top. So we're gonna go ahead and now start sanding the tips here flush with the S6, the sheeting. Sand that sheeting flush with F6 rib, both from the stab and the elevator. And once we get that completely sanded, we will cut off all the tabs on the elevator and releasing the elevator from the horizontal stabilizer. Go ahead and sand all the sheeting all the way around the entire stab, flush with the trailing edge and the leading edge. Also sanding those tabs flush with the leading edge of the elevators. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and use 80 grit sandpaper on the T-bar sander. I'm just gonna go ahead and place my whole stab right here at the corner of my work table. I'm just gonna go ahead and sand this nice and slowly. Just keep an eye on it, making sure that I don't go crooked. Getting close to the front here. Okay, that's good. All right. We're good there. Now we're just gonna go ahead come back with 120. And we're good. Doing that, sanding both sides, both tips. We're gonna go ahead now and separate the elevators. Now, what I'm going to do is, I already marked showing that this is my top. I'm gonna put a mark somewhere in the elevators to also reflect that this is the top of the elevator. And, top left, top right. So I can just go ahead and do that here for now. I'm just gonna put an arrow just like that. Just like that. You can do it any way you want. It's just something I just put there. This is top left, top right. That way I know when I cut this out and working on it, I don't accidentally put my right on my left and all that stuff. Alrighty, so let's go and separate this. Now, most of the tabs you're gonna see it's on the bottom side of the assembly. So if you turn it upside down, all the tabs are mostly in this area. It's not hard to cut through them. I'm I'm not even doing a lot here. There you go. That's one elevator separated. This cuts like butter. There you go. What I had done is I had taken that stock, cut it down the middle, went ahead and found center and drew a center line all the way down on both of the elevator leading edge. I also found center on my training edge on the horizontal stabilizer, and I drew that line all the way through. Like that, I got my cardboard template out of my bonded paper, and so now I can take this and plop it over the horizontal stabilizer tip block. Just line it up just like such, and you could basically mark that and cut it. Yep, too easy. Alrighty, and just like that, I got my block pretty much outlined so I can make the cut. Since I'm not using a miter box or anything like that, I'm just freehand sawing it down, you know, so for something this big, so I don't make a mistake and cut it in an angle or whatnot. What I will do is I will saw this right in the middle here, just like this. So I'll saw this in the middle of the two lines, right? And once and so if I were to use the saw, and let's say I'm cutting and I kind of go in a slight angle, as long as I'm still in between the two lines, I'm good. That way I can to put this on the side of my work table, get 80 grit sandpaper and sand it to the line, and just keep monitoring all the way around. And yeah, you'll have a squared, you know, sanded piece that will fit directly onto your horizontal stabilizer. Okay, so you see how I said when you cut it, it goes into a slight angle. So if you're not using a bandsaw or a miter box or something like that, if you're doing it freehand like I am, safe bet is to do it this way. Because if you're going to try to cut it directly at your line, you might go off. And just imagine if I were to cut it right here and I did go in an angle, I would eventually have cut past that line there. I would have eaten into that line, therefore making this part now shorter, because I'm going to try to block sand it, you know, at a 90 degrees, and then it's not going to fit. So save yourself some trouble. Think about what you're going to do before you do it, and have a plan of attack, and then execute. Alrighty. Alright guys, so we got the blocks for the horizontal stabilizer tips cut out, and you can see right here. So now what we got to do is basically sand these blocks. Since I squared them up all the way around, we just got to sand this area to the line to get it really nice and squared off. So I did one already, this one right here. So as you can see here, I got it all sanded to the line itself, and so that will square up perfectly right on the tip, just like that. Get that to shape. Take all the other stuff and put it away. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some tape to cover the work area. Just like that. This is just to prevent any accidental nicks and scratches and stuff like that on the sheeting. Always just being very careful when I'm pressing against this the sheeting and all. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and start on the top one here. I'm gonna go ahead and grab my 80. We're just going to be very careful when we do this. Now, you can easily use the rasp and get it cut down. You can use a razor plane to take majority of this off. And in my case, I don't like using razor planes, so I'll probably use my rasp. Very careful. We're almost there.
nice if I can hold this better, because now that we got very close to that, we can come back here with our sanding bone. Close. Come back with the 120. This side's getting good. It's from here to here. you got the tape on there. There you go. When you put the tape there, you won't over sand that area that you already worked on. So. Just gonna do this side now. Get this side down closer. The closer you can get this thing with a planer, the less sanding. So for those of you who are pretty good at using a planer, then you're just gonna be at home with this one. I don't really care for planers, but I tend to break things when I use a planer. Let's go this way. Turn it this way. I'm gonna go ahead and concentrate on the bottom side.
Getting the tape residue off. We'll utilize the blade to cut the rest off. You have to put the tape on here. Just cutting it down so it'll be less sanding. Tick it down as far as we can so we don't gouge into our sheeting. Now it's time to make some balsa dust. 80 grit sandpaper. Maybe I can go, maybe I still can go a little bit more here. I'll go to 120. Just like that, we're done with that. Alright, so we got one side done. Can still go a little bit more on the sanding here. At least right here on this side. So we'll just go back to the 120. Go. So we got both sides here. We got that side, we got this side. And so of course, when it's all said and done, This is also going to get glued onto here, just like such. Of course, centered as much as possible, just like that. And then of course, elevator, and then this one. So let's get this one done and we'll get right into that. Alright. So for the most part, we got both sides sanded. This is the elevator leading edge, all the way down the full length. Okay. So now, you can see the top is facing down. From here, we're going to go ahead and glue our elevators on. And when we glue this on here, we're going to ensure that the tip here is also aligned. I got this side sanded, or at least the top part. Now we got to transition to this other side. Okay. Alright, just like that, camera magic. So we got it rough shaped on both sides. Come back now, and we use 60 grit or 80 grit sandpaper to get the roughing in and majority of the rasp to prevent a lot of dust, but at the end of the day, it's still a lot of dust regardless how you look at it. Okay, so now that we got it in that form, now we can come back with 120 and just kind of go over everything. Okay. And on this one here, I think I'm gonna go ahead and get my soft cushion. Only because I noticed that I'm getting a little bit of hanger rash, as you can see right here. And so instead of sanding this area, we'll just put water over it, let the balsa swell back up, and then we'll go back over it with sandpaper. Because if you're just to sand this right now, you're gonna try to get that out. So you're gonna continue sanding and sanding and sanding and thinning out the sheeting. So let's just add water first. And if worst case scenario, it's a real deep indent, you use water and heat from your seating iron, it'll raise all that balsa back up, and then you can just come back over with 220, 320, 400 grit sandpaper, end of story. Okay. Smooth transition right here. This one. Good on that. That's good here. We got a little bit more right here. So right now we're just the final leg of the horizontal stabilizer. So what I had done off camera, because it was time consuming, was pretty much getting the center of the leading edge all the way around the tips to the rear. Okay, did that all the way to the other side as well. So I found my center line, and from there we're just going to go ahead and shape it around the front leading edge based on the cross section and also the tips. So it's going to come down kind of like in a slight angle, and then round it off in the end. And the cross section on the plan is basically like this. So that's the shape that we need to get, a symmetrical shape based off the horizontal stabilizer tips. So yeah. Alright, so just basically utilizing 120 grit sandpaper, and now we're just blending, making sure that the tips are also flat with the horizontal stabilizer like this. Alright, we'll do that to both sides here. Just like that. Now this is straight from the top sheeting all the way to the end, all nice and straight, and then from here we can start doing the taper towards the end and then rounding it off of the center line. Also with the front leading edge, we're just going to come back and we're just going to start coming down like this, and we start sanding cross section like this until we get to the center line. continue working it all the way to the center line, both top and bottom. Just do it little by little, guys. That's all that matters. Like that. We're working it there. Okay. I'm evenly doing it both sides at the same time. So I do one side, I come around, and the other side. Just like that. I look at it. So far so good. It's getting there. There you go. Just like that. And then from the rest of it, we'll use 220 grit sandpaper and we'll just round it off a little bit. Now, let's go continue on getting this all the way around. Just like that. Slowly but surely. Slowly but surely.
like that. I didn't go all the way to the line just yet. We're gonna go work on the opposite side. Try to make it the same, which is always the fun part. Always just checking your work. Just looking at the center line there. So far, we're doing good. Little by little. Don't need to rush this thing. Let's go take care of this over here. Just like that. Double check, make sure everything looks good. Also, be mindful the way you hold your horizontal stabilizer so you don't break anything during this process. Double check your work. Looking pretty good so far. sure everything is still in line. So far, so good. Double check again. So far, so good. It looks pretty even, both sides. Just go ahead and continue until we get this thing completely all the way around. Really looking nice. Oops. If you can see, I don't know if you can see, but there's my center line. And I'm making it symmetrical, so symmetrical meaning both sides are pretty much the same, right? So a little bit more. And we don't really need to use the 120 all the way to finishing. Just get it to shape and then we'll go 220 and really fine tune it and get it all blended in. Oh yeah, I'm liking that. It's really looking good. All right, and so for the root end here, all I did was basically get my center line with the tape measure and found my center line all the way through, and then from here all I'm doing is just using tape as my guide that's wrapped around from all the tick marks that I just made, and then from there I can pull this off, and that's my center line that I will be rounding this side to. All right, so with that said, and we're also going to utilize the inside leading edge base, I guess what you could call it, since it's round already. You see the indentations there. We're just going to follow that and round this whole section right here.
See how it's shaping up just now? As you can see, we're getting closer to the actual that curve from that leading edge that was in there. That's actually holding the main leading edge. So you can see how we're getting close. And then this is just all gonna just get rounded off here. Just taking my time. Okay, now that I got close to this area, I'm gonna go ahead and change my sandpaper now to 120. I'm using the 80 grit paper right now, just to get majority of the block sanded. Just like that. Also looking at it from the front view to ensure that we got this also somewhat symmetrical. So when you're looking at it this way, you want to make sure that they're roughly about the same all the way around. Okay. So just real light, guys. We're not trying to kill this thing. Just take your time, let the tool do the work. While you just gauge, eyeball, and make sure things are going as planned. Everything's at your own disposal. You're in full control. So now I'm gonna go 120. Just like that. Do the opposite side here. Just like that. Very close, very close. I think we're good here. So that's how I rounded that off. And it's rough shaping right now. And we'll do all the final sanding once we're ready to do get closer to covering this model. But other than that, that's all it took, guys. That's all it took. I did that without any cuts right now. No cuts in frame or anything in the video. Real time, basically. And there you go. It's gonna go like that. And of course, we're gonna have to bevel. We're gonna get center line here, which we already still got the line there. And then the center line here. we're gonna bevel this to match the plans to get the correct angle, the bevel. All right. But yeah, as a matter of fact, if you look at this, everything all the way around to the tips, everything is all even, right? Like this side is not like more of an angle than the top. So all the way around, everything is, to me, is just fine.
All right, guys. So that pretty much concludes part 2 of the giant scale P47 Razorback by Plains Revive. We just finished building the horizontal stabilizer and the elevators. If you have any questions in regards to the construction of these items, please leave it in the comments below. I check my comments every day. I'll answer whatever questions you guys have. And if you have any concerns in regards to the video, right now I'm waiting for my lapel mic. I know the audio is kind of wonky here and there. It's kind of muffled. At the same time, you got this little humming sound, which is my AC unit. Sorry about that. If I don't have that on, it's going to be completely hot in here. So I'm just going to have to just bear with me with that one until we get that one repaired. But right now, we're going to finish this video, close this out. We're going to start part 3 of the build series. We're going to construct the vertical fin and the rudder. And then at the end of that video, we will close it out by coming back to the horizontal stabilizer and elevators, and we're going to hinge both elevators and also the rudder, and then close out the tail section and get right into part 4, which will be the construction of the fuselage. So really looking forward to that. I hope you guys are as well. And yeah, I just having a blast, guys. So just been taking my time really and just taking it all in regards to my first giant scale model, and the quality of the kit. It's just making it that much easier for my build to look really nice. So I mean, it is what it is. So yeah, other than that, don't forget to click that like, subscribe to the channel, and share the videos, and I will see you guys in the next video. All right, shishi!